With Split 1 of Season 13 underway, we have seen some changes to ground loot weapons, new crafting rotation, and more. And with all of these changes, some people may be wondering what weapons they should be looking to pick up in order to slay out this season. So hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest, 8-Second Gaming, and in today's video I'm going to be breaking down and ranking all of the weapons in Apex that you won't have to guess what ones to be looking out for. But also guys, with some of these changes, a lot of people may have lost their favorite gun or are looking to learn some new ones. And if that is the case, you'll definitely want to check out the GameLeap website, because over there we have amazing coaches, including myself, making the most highly informative guides possible. I'm talking legend guides, gun guides, VOD reviews, and so much more, and we have new content coming out all the time. So if you are struggling to climb rank this season, or you're just looking to learn everything you can about Apex, click the link in the description, pick yourself up a membership, and let us help you. But now let's talk about the weapons, and I want to get one thing cleared up and out of the way first. The care package weapons will not be appearing on this tier list. They are all broken and worth picking up, so they would all be in S tier and just kind of clutter up the list. So the Mastiff, Kraber, Volt, and G7 Scout will be off to the side in their own tier. But now that we have that cleared up and out of the way, let's start off with our D tier weapons. These guns will be the ones that you use off drop when forced to, but you should always be looking to swap off them as soon as possible. These weapons are the RE45, the P2020, L-Star, and the EVA. First up, the RE45. This is a gun that's a bridge weapon. It's an attachment holder basically, for when you find a better weapon like a car or you decide to craft a 301. It isn't worth running into the late game because most guns do outrange and out DPS it, and you will be losing a lot of fights with it. Now hammer points do add some viability, and I have won some games using it, but for the most part the range just isn't there and it will remain a D tier weapon. Next up, the P2020. Much like the RE45, this weapon is mostly a light mag holder. Now if you have a finger that makes all the girls love you, this weapon can put in some work. But without hammer points, it really lacks damage and range, and you cannot contest straight up fights. This is pretty much just one of those guns that is meant to be bad. Now in terms of the L-Star, this is one of the guns that when it first came out it was a meme, a joke, and then it shot up to the most OP gun in the game with some buffs, and with the nerfs it is now back down here. You can still pull some nice one clips with it, but for the most part you aren't going to run it over the other weapons that are available. It just really does not have a spot in the meta, and it's not really worth running, and that's why it is down here. And lastly for this tier, it is the EVA 8. This is pretty much the same as the L-Star. It used to be insanely overpowered and everyone ran it. Now with the nerfs that it did receive, it is down here and just a joke of a gun. Unless you are right up in someone's face, you're not going to be doing any damage, and it is just not worth running. It pretty much is just a shotgun bolt holder until you find something better. But now we can move into our C tier weapons. These are guns that aren't exactly bad choices, but they're not top of the pack either. In the right circumstances they can do well, but for the most part other weapons just completely outclass them. And there are only two guns finding a spot here, the Mozambique and the Hemlock. Now I've said this before about the Mozambique, it is a tough gun to place on a tier list, because it does do some very consistent damage and it has decent range, so that is a good thing. And with hammer points you can really be a threat to a lot of people. But the fact that it doesn't have the same punch as the Peacekeeper is its main issue, and that's pretty much the reason that it's down here. You can still do well with it, but for the most part you'll want to drop it for a Peacekeeper, or if the gods bless you in the care package you will then pick up a Mastiff. And now I'm sure that I've made all the Hemlock cult followers mad, but this gun lacks in range and DPS in most cases. While I do agree that if you can hit all your bursts, it can kill pretty quickly and it does have a decent hipfire, but it loses close range and long range battles. It has to be in the sweet spot in the medium range or it lacks viability, and for the most part the mid range is a tough battle for it as well. Fully auto guns are just a better option. So could the Hemlock be in B tier? Probably, but I think it fits better in C tier. But now we can move on to B tier, and these are just those solid middle of the pack weapons. These weapons include the Bocek, 3030, Alternator, Sentinel, Prowler, and R99. Starting off, the Bocek is another one of the weird guns. It does have its moment when it shines with the headshots because they do a lot of damage and can catch some people off guard, and it's quiet, so it's making third parties less likely. But it doesn't really compete with the sniper rifles or other marksman rifles. And the fact that it has its own ammo system can be annoying. If you need to swap off the weapon later in the game, it can take more time, and if you're on controller standing still looting, taking more time is never a good thing. Now, as for the 3030, this is one of the best pressure applying guns in the game. You can send out a lot of shots with decent damage all game long because you don't need a ton of ammo to do so. But where it really falls off is the reload time. If you don't have the dual shell hop up, it takes forever. And also, it doesn't work as well in close range as, say, a wingman. So this gun is really good up until the last couple circles, then it falls off hard. So it's a really good B tier weapon. Moving away from the marksman rifles though, let's talk about the Alternator. This gun has a very easy to control recoil, making it a great weapon for beginners. So that reason may make it seem like it would be higher, but it belongs in B tier because unless your enemy is missing shots, you will lose most of these straight up gunfights that you're in. The Alternator just does not have the DPS in order to compete most of the time. If you're able to get the jump on someone and they're not targeting you, you can put in some work with the Alternator. But most of the time you'll be looking to swap off, like potentially crafting a R301. Next up though, let's move on to sniper rifles, and here we have the Sentinel. Now once again, this weapon does hurt if you can hit some nice headshots, but the fire rate is what lowers this gun down in the tiers. It can be very slow, and with the reload times, your enemies can get away or get behind cover to heal up before moving again, and that can set you up for a ton of missed kills. And if you're missing kills, you're missing a lot of opportunities, you're not getting KP, and the gun just isn't as good. But now we have the Prowler. This gun used to have the fastest time to kill in the game, but some recent nerfs have changed that. And with other guns hitting so hard up close and offering more, the Prowler just has been phased out of the meta. Now for some of the controller players that use this gun, it will still be powerful, but for a lot of players it just isn't worth running and finds itself kind of in the middle of the pack. And last up for this tier, we have the R99. This is another gun that has just kind of been phased out of the meta. It has the lowest damage per bullet and just lacks a lot of total damage output. The only saving grace of this weapon is that it shoots fast, but it has a very low one-clip potential, and if you miss even a couple of bullets, you will not be dropping your enemy, so this gun isn't what it used to be, and it does find itself in this tier. But now moving on, we have our A tier weapons. These are the guns that are strong, very good pickups, but they are missing one key feature keeping them out of S tier. These are the Devotion, Havoc, Rampage, R301, Triple Take, and Charge Rifle. I'm going to be talking about the Devotion and Havoc together here because the same thing keeps them out of S tier. Both of these guns do their job extremely well and will be dishing out a ton of damage in fights. They offer a lot to teams and in the right hands are very deadly. But the reason they aren't in S tier is they rely heavily on turbochargers to reach their maximum potential. Without the turbo, there is just a lot of time where you are vulnerable and can be killed easily. And because you need a gold hop up that's fairly rare, they just can't quite be S tier. Now next up we have the Rampage. This gun gave Respawn so many problems during its time on ground loot. And while it is in the Crafter and the Spitfire is just a better heavy LMG all around, the charged up Rampage is still a very strong weapon. Being able to shoot off doors and contest a lot of guns with high mag capacity is huge, and finding a thermite is a lot easier than finding a hop up, so the Rampage does stay in A tier. Next up though, we have the R301. Now this gun did get put into the Crafter this season, and that is the reason it's A and not S. The fact that you have to make the choice between picking crafting armor, meds, or this weapon is a hard choice to make sometimes. And in a lot of cases, it is easier to just stick with the gun that you found on the ground and use the crafting materials to make some batteries. So because of that, the R301 is finding a spot in A and not S. And moving on to the triple take, it is a very good gun for Stormpoint. There are a lot of open sniper lanes that can be taken advantage of pretty easily. And the triple take does do some pretty hefty damage, especially if you're able to choke it up and land all of the pellets on someone. But the biggest issue with this gun is it can chew through ammo. It's not as big of an issue now because energy is found a lot more often, but can still be very annoying to deal with. But following the chewing through ammo, our next gun in this tier is the charge rifle. This gun is an absolute unit on the battlefield, dishing out tons of damage and can be making mincemeat out of a lot of players. But the gun eats ammo like no other weapon, and with sniper having less ammo per stack, it is a huge issue that this gun runs into all the time. If the charge rifle only took 1 bullet per shot, it would be S tier, but the ammo scarcity makes it A. But now we have reached our S tier weapons, the best guns that you will want to be running this split. These are the Peacekeeper, Wingman, Flatline, Spitfire, Car, and Longbow. First up, the Peacekeeper. Now that the Mastiff is in the care package, this is really the only option for shotguns, though it can be unreliable with its damage output. When you are able to hit those center mass juicy shots, it can chunk people for a lot. And this gun is pretty much a must-have for bubble fights, so it is 100% an S tier gun. Next up though, we have the Wingman, and every season has its over-the-top broken gun, and for season 13 I do believe that is the Wingman. The poke and killing potential on this gun is unmatched by anything else in the game. It is able to be used at all ranges and be just as good, and that is very broken. So if you're not good with the Wingman, you should definitely be looking to pick it up a lot more and learning it because it is worth it. Abuse it while you can. As for the Flatline though, this is the AR taking its spot in S tier. It is by far the best ground loot AR right now. Last season, this gun was in the crafter, so it was A tier, but now the Flatline and the R301 have basically just swapped places. And assault rifles are fantastic on Stormpoint and a really good pickup, so if you can control the recoil on the Flatline, pick it up and go ham on some kids, you will be wrecking them. But if you can't control the Flatline recoil, then try picking up the Spitfire. Though it did lose its barrel stabilizer, the recoil is extremely easy to control and makes for a good beginner weapon. It also has a very big magazine size, so you can be shooting for days. When everybody gets caught with their pants down reloading, you will still be sending 20 or so bullets at them. It is a massive crutch weapon, but hey, who cares? Use whatever works for you. But if the time to kill on the Spitfire is a little too low for your taste, you might want to check out the Car. This gun is a machine in close range fights. It is one-clipping almost everyone that gets in the way of it. Though the recoil is a little harder to control for medium to long range, it is still super good in close range fights. And it melts, so it is a great S tier gun. And last up we have the Longbow. Now this gun was also in the crafter last season, so it was not S tier, but now that it's back on ground loot, it has been moved up. The map right now is also Stormpoint, a very good map for sniper rifles with the very long sniper lanes and high ground options that you have to play. The Longbow also doesn't eat rounds like the charge rifle, making it a great poking weapon. So this should be the go-to sniper for most players this season. We didn't really see a whole lot of changes with the guns in the meta, they're pretty much still all in the same spots. So hopefully next split we do see a little bit more balance changes to shake up the meta. I kinda think it'd be cool to see an RE45 meta, we've never seen one of those before. But with that being said though guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did and you want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest Apex Legends tips, tricks, and news, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I'm 8 Second Gaming and I will see you in the next one.